What's up, Ramblers? I know you want to get into today's podcast, but real quick, make sure you're keeping up by following Assistance HQ and Offsource HQ across all platforms, anywhere on all social medias, to keep up with all of the latest content, updates, exclusive, and everything else. And for business owners, visit offsource.tech for all of your office outsourcing needs, a virtual assistant for every occasion. All the links are in the bio, so go check them out right now. Now, here's your podcast. And now, a moment from our sponsor.
All right. Hey guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Ramblings. I have with us Cameron Toth of Toth Staffing. Introduce yourself.
Angelo, thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to be here on The Ramblings, and I'm really excited to tell my story, and hopefully it's helpful to somebody. But my name is Cameron Toth. I am the host of Biz Dev Live Monday through Friday on YouTube, also broadcasting to Facebook and Periscope on Twitter. I have a networking event that I do every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, where people can actually get on Zoom and actually interact with each other. I bill it as networking training disguised as a networking event where people actually get to network. And then on Fridays at 2 p.m., I have the Master Connection series, which I co-host with the amazing host, Steve Spiro, where we bring together an expert panel together and really rock it out on LinkedIn Live. We had something like 360 comments in the course of an hour being live last Friday, over 700 views before the end of the day. Crazy amount of community and interaction on that platform. It's been amazing.
Wow, man, that's been really big. So I've been to some of your events, and you run them a little bit differently than other networking events that I've been to. You really focus on other people listening and paying attention. Hence why you give other people the opportunity to tell someone else's story. What made you do that differently?
So I've been in education for a long time. So I'll tell my story here because it starts in high school. And for anybody that's been in high school, especially in an NYC public education environment kind of high school, and I imagine that's somewhat similar to especially urban environments, but even if you go out to, some big high school in the middle of nowhere, in terms of actual engagement from your teacher and level of actual practical education in a given classroom, it's a little bit tough. And so it's tough to be motivated. It's tough to pay attention and know where you want to go because you're a teenager, there's a lot going on, but it doesn't feel like it's catered to you. So for my programming with BizDev Live on YouTube and then with the BizDev Live networking, it's about creating that engagement, making it interesting. So, you said maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe you're talking about the music. Maybe you're talking about the fact that we spend very little time going one to many with one person speaking in a big room with, 30, 40 people. We spend more time in breakouts where it's, 4 people talking to each other and actually having some time to say something, listen, respond, conversate, and actually connect and grow versus, that 1 to 30, 1 to 40, where we might as well be on a webinar. I might as well be watching YouTube without any kind of comment, engagement, anything, right? So how does this come from the high school kind of environment? I did not graduate high school. My father was great, put me into books, gave me a love of books that I've passed on to my kids. I have 4 kids with my wife under our roof here. We've been married the past 17 years, and I owe my kids' love of books to my father bestowing that upon me and me able to pass that down. That being said, he was in a single father situation. My mother was out on the West Coast, and in high school, that push, that direction, that connecting right now to 20 years from now, he wasn't doing that for me. And so I'm incredibly impassioned now to kind of go back and help 17-year-old me, but 17-year-old me did not graduate high school. In fact, 17-year-old me turned into 19-year-old me having a child with a woman that I was not going to spend the rest of my life with. That child is 24 years old now, and I don't have that connection with him. I haven't taught him how to drive. It pains me. And so going back and helping a younger version of myself, 14, 15-year-olds old, again, connecting right now to 20 years from now so that they have every door of possibility open to them, financial and otherwise, is amazing. So I got my base sort of started from some rough circumstances in school, in the sense that I wasn't making some of the smart choices. At the same time, senior year of high school, I was getting introduced to a college and career preparatory program in Harlem. And I was getting some of my first lessons in classroom management from my mentor, Charles Thompson, who runs that organization at a Philip Randolph campus high school. The organization is called soundbusiness.org. You can go look that up online right now, soundbusiness.org. And I've spent the last 24 years in that organization. I originally got pulled in the same reason a lot of the other students get pulled in: a love of music, a love of performance. And we have peer groups that actually encourage each other to stay a part of the group by maintaining a GPA. And then, oh, by the way, hey, if you do this, this will give you a better shot on your college application. Or if we go on this college tour, you're going to get an idea of the resources. So you sort of see some of the things pulling in here, and lessons learned from when I was a kid and wasn't looking at those things. Because, after I didn't graduate from high school and I got my GED, I was told that college was important, but I wasn't looking at the resources that were needed financially. I wasn't looking at what educational resources they were going to bring to bear, and who I was going to network and build my platform and my life with, and who I was going to call to start up my virtual assistant company or whatever, right? I was just sort of not doing that. And so I really quickly started seeing the value of understanding the resources through my participation in this college and career preparatory program. And that has turned into a lifelong passion, which I now, even though I started a hospitality company in 2011, in 2020, when we got into the pandemic, I had an opportunity to said, oh, I want to focus more on YouTube. I could have started up the hospitality channel. I said, nope, I want to do something that I've derived my passion from the last 9-10 years, especially because whether it was participating in the college and career preparatory program that I'm on the board of, or sitting across from a waiter, bartender, chef, kitchen assistant. I've done over 700 interviews in the last 9 years with Toth Event Staffing as CEO and the primary person that hires folks. I enjoyed most the moment where we were talking about where this person wanted to go in their career, providing that resource, the book, the connection, the advice that was going to get them up to the next step. Case in point, I had a woman that was just graduated from accounting school. She was a bartender, great bartender. I was interviewing her. She was talking to me about her hopes and dreams of getting into a accounting role, because you just graduated with an accounting degree, but like many young folks, needed a part-time job, bartending, otherwise, right, to actually support as she built on this next step. And we got in the conversation. I said, you need to negotiate your salary. You need to make sure you're not accepting the first thing offered to you. You need to make sure that you're applying to many different places so that you get the best opportunity available to you. And that is not something that is uncommon to anything, business, college applications. Like, that's just sound advice, right? Negotiate your situation, make sure it's the best situation for you, and make sure you have lots of opportunity available to you so you have choices, right? And I enjoyed giving that advice, and I really enjoyed getting that phone call saying, Cameron, I negotiated my salary. I'm so glad you gave me that advice. I'm really happy I'm in a position I love.
I love that. I want to slow you down real quick, branch off into a quick section, because I love what you just said. What is it like trying to do that, but under the pressure of, needing that day money, to make ends meet and things of that nature? What has been, your key in growing Toth Event Staffing and Biz Dev Live, while also trying to maintain, keeping the lights on and things like that? What's your balance?
So the two things that I've learned and really taken away from the last 24 years since, graduating from high school, which is sort of where there's stuff that happened in my life. My mother's was living in California, and there's definitely things that formed my mentality. But, for the purposes of our story and sort of my life's mission, you go from high school and you say, all right, what what mistakes did you make? What things, if you had the chance to do over, would you do differently? And saving money is one of those biggest things that I would go back if I could. I had a child at 19, and while that's incredibly challenging from a relationship piece, I love my son, very difficult to say I would go back and not have him. Obviously, I would like to have him under better circumstances. But what's one thing that would go back and change life for the better for everybody? Saving money, just being really disciplined, saving money. I'm trying to teach my 14-year-old daughter how to save half of her income. So she's taken, whether it's babysitting with us or working in the Toth Event Staffing office over the summer, the discipline, I'm telling her, save 50%. So 50% she can spend, 50% she can save. And as she levels up in life and she's gotten this discipline, it's going to be a lot easier. Maybe she may not always be able to save 50%. Maybe she's going to be able to save more. Right. And so, you think about somebody that's wealthy. Are they saving more than 50% of their income? Probably. Right. Because not only are they generating high income, but they're able to generate in multiple different places. So their income, they're saving more than they're spending. I mean, that's sort of the secret to wealth, right? So getting that discipline down. So one big thing is saving. I can't stress that enough. I've only recently, in the last maybe 5 years, really started to save. And I started only investing in the stock market in 2017. And those investments are meager and minor, but doing very well. Just the idea of putting money aside and saving. And then the other piece that was an absolute godsend, savior kind of moment for us was structure. So when I started up Toth Event Staffing in 2011, we operated as a DBA. So what does that mean? That means that I was working under my social security number. Toth Event Staffing was not a separate entity, not in a legal sense, and not in a real financial sense, not enough anyways for the government to not have difficulties telling apart, what we were spending on staff, which was an expense, and then later on saying, oh, that's income. It created huge problems that we're still dealing with today. But in 2015, we moved the business to an S Corp. Under an S Corp, because I'm just horrible with finances. There's a lot of things that I'm good at. You come to me and you talk to me about culture. You come to me and talk to me about social media. For example, with culture, the idea that, we send staff out to a lot of different places with Toth Event Staffing, and I can trust, even though I'm not on that site, that the quality, that the care is there. And so we build a culture where, somebody walks up, we're very, collar and dress tie. So black and white uniform, long black tie, white button down shirt. Somebody's walking up to an event, from my team, and they got a wife beater on and, nothing else because it's hot in the summertime. One of my waiters runs up to him and says, hey, we don't do that there. I'm not on the site. I'm not saying that. And I've never, in fact, ever said to somebody specifically that they couldn't wear a wife beater on the site.
Right.
Because I focus on what people can do and what they should do, not what they can't do or what they shouldn't do. Right. So it just builds this culture of people understand what we stand for. I sort of go crazy with it, listening to somebody like Simon Sinek and, understanding that why is important. And the tough part for a company like mine is we send people out to work with other companies. So, where if you think of your company as a battalion or an army, the purpose is clear. I'm over here and, somebody's doing their own thing over there. And so you don't always get the what, but we have done such a great job of telling people this is what we stand for, hospitality. And when something goes wrong on site, a caterer or client has the wrong attitude, we quickly address it. We've done things like, reverse fire, let go of clients because they didn't stand for what we stand for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And then just to finalize that point on the structure piece of it, having the structure, whether it's in the interview process or the corporate piece, just makes life easy. And then you asked a specific question about like how are we getting through these days? Well, the corporate structure allowed things like the PPP for us to really make a difference, because under an S corp, I pay myself as an employee. So technically, even though I own the company, I run the company, I am not self-employed, because Toth Event Staffing is a separate entity, its own tax ID. Toth
Right.
Event Staffing pays Cameron Toth. And so when the PPP comes around, it's the payroll protection program, right? So
Right.
it protects the payroll of Cameron Toth. So Cameron Toth has been working for Toth Event Staffing pretty much nonstop. There's been some periods of unemployment and whatnot, just with availability, time in between the PPP programs. You had to spend all the PPP money in 2020. We're reapplying for that now. So at the end of the day, though, Toth Event Staffing, that company that I built in 2011, is paying for BizDev Live and paying for the efforts for us to brand build for BizDev Live. And then I think the other piece that you're getting at, because it's like, oh, how do you do this? Because you're not necessarily getting revenue from BizDev Live networking. We don't charge a fee for that yet. We don't, obviously make any revenue from YouTube yet. I'm not formally in any partnerships with BizDev Live in terms of a business development partner for companies yet, but you can sort of see where this is going. I am in a good position because of the structure and because of some of the money that I've saved, that I can now pivot, move, take action because of the structure and the money that's been saved, without fearing that we're going to go hungry or that the lights are going to be turned off, because we've put ourselves in that great position. I just did a beautiful little TikTok video with my 10-year-old this morning. I said, Martine, what have I told you about money? He said, save your money so you can start things later. We did that unscripted. I'm trying to get that into the kids. I'm trying to get it into my own mentality, but I'm trying to get into the kids. That's how you're able to actually do things and pivot and move your money into investments and help people start things. I'm really excited about, providing opportunity and education. And I think both are equally strong, right? Because when you give somebody the opportunity to build something that is also going to provide education and opportunity to others, that's how you maximize your efforts.
I definitely agree there. And you mentioned culture, right? And I want to speak on culture because my dad being a big influence in my life for a lot of things that I do business wise. And you mentioned that, right? And so being a father yourself, you kind of start realizing that being a parent is just like running a business. The house, you have to make sure money comes in, money goes out, you delegate employees and all that kind of stuff. And you've been doing it at the exact same time as building, Cameron Toth Event Staffing. And so what's your idea on culture? Because when you have kids and everything, they represent you when they're at school and things like that, just like your staff represents you when they're at different events. What are the similarities that you've seen in between being like a parent slash business owner and how it's translated to how you do business, in real life?
So for anybody that's trying to really, especially if you have multiple children and you have a business that you're trying to level up and grow, create a franchise kind of piece with your kids, trying to make sure that you're not repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again without it actually getting somewhere, which I know as a parent, you end up doing to a certain degree. There's just no way around it. Repetition is the mother of talent. I mean, it's just the way it is. So you want a child to learn not to walk through a door and not close it. It's having to repeat that over again in terms of the rules. And the way to not do it more than would otherwise be necessary is to be very, very consistent. So when I talk about Michael E. Gruber's The E-Myth Revisited, what I'm talking about is how do you create consistency? How do you create and make sure that your team is on the same page? And for moms and dads, for families that are lucky enough to have that team in place, growing up, I did not. My mother was on the West Coast. My father was in New York City. And so I just grew up with him, and he didn't have a teammate to play along and make sure that there was somebody coming behind him and enforcing that same rule and giving that same message. You can tell a lot of times when there are parents that just aren't on the same page with things because you got a pretty confused child. I think that's a pretty good, description of an employee at a company where the managers and the CEO and the directors are not on the same page, because you just got a confused employee. They don't know which way they should really go. They don't understand why they're, supposed to do things. They're just running through the motions. And so you see that in children. I think you see that in employees, not to be patronizing anybody, but that's sort of just, I think, a great similarity. I draw it all the time. I try to be careful, not treat my employees like kids and not my kids like not employees, right? You don't want to do that, but there is a lot of crossover for building that culture. So being consistent and documenting the processes as much as possible. If you can tell your kids, this is the way we do things, and put it down in writing. For example, if there's a trash schedule, I mean, we do it in lots of small ways, right? Chore lists. This is your routine for going to bed. We're going to go to bed at this time every night. I'm going to write it down on the wall. This is the routine. This is what we're going to stick to. And then once you put that edict out there, whether it's with the staff or with the kids, that you stick to it. And then also a culture that understands it's not about the rule, it's about the outcome. So if I'm putting something in place, this is the desired outcome. I want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. I want to make sure that your brain is healthy. I want to make sure that we're set up for the next opportunity, not just this one. I talk to the staff when we're going through the interview process. I really don't want to tell you all the things that you can't do or shouldn't do, not because there aren't things that you shouldn't do on a job, of course. There are things that you shouldn't do, but I really want our mind to focus on the things that we should be doing. We should be offering great customer service. We should be really nice. And more important, and this is something that I stress, and I stress it with the kids as well, it's really important to be nice to clients or outsiders. It is as much, if not more important, to be nice to each other. So siblings need to be nice to each other. That's your team. That's who's going to be supporting you for the rest of your life. That's your blood. So you need to treat them well. And so the same thing goes true for the staff. My expectation is that we're going to give the same respect, if not better, to our coworker. Our coworker needs help. Let's say your back is hurting, right? And your coworker needs help lifting something up. There's a big difference between saying, "Oh, sorry, I can't help you. My back hurts," and, "Oh, you know what? My back hurts. Let me get somebody right away for you to help you."
Right. Okay.
That's the big difference in culture, right? The idea that there's a way to do things. There's a way to be helpful. There's a way to be nice. There's a way to be respectful, right? If it was on the client end, right? Client needs help with something, you just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. My back hurts," right? We know that's wrong. We know we need to help the client one way or another. We need to find a way. Right. That isn't always applied to the coworker. That isn't always applied to the sibling, right? That idea. And, if we get that understanding that it's just about treating people nicely, having empathy, that's a big part of any culture. And I think it's one of those things that makes and sets a big, big difference for any organization.
Now, it's very good to be empathetic, right? And you seem to be very openly forward about certain things. So as you continue, to grow your business and things, how have you been able to be empathetic and still maintain such high energy? Because it seems like, you're pulled in so many different directions, and at every single event you will have such high energy. And I just love the consistency of even that high energy. Even if I'm consistent, I may not be consistently as high energy. And I've loved seeing other high energy people, because I consider myself a high energy person. Do you have a secret sauce, like an MJ secret bottle of energy that you keep or anything? Like what is your tick?
So I think there's a lot that goes into being high energy and positive. I mean, I think not everybody's going to be high energy because that's just not their personality. I've never been a guy that needed a buzz to get on the dance floor. So there's a certain part of my personality that just enjoys being alive, that just enjoys being in the energy. That being said, I'm a guy that reads books. I am also a person when I walk into a networking event, a live person networking event. You remember those, right, Angela? A live person networking event. And if I don't know anybody, I'm very nervous and I feel very introverted, and it feels very awkward because the idea of me just going up to somebody and introducing myself without that pre-existing relationship is uncomfortable. I've definitely been in those situations where getting ready to leave the house, it took a lot. And maybe there was a time that I didn't leave the house because I just wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't ready to put myself in that situation. So I think that's really important for people to know, because I think it's really important to understand that it takes effort. It takes effort to be high energy. If I go into my networking meeting and there's different stuff going on, maybe I didn't sleep well the night before, I didn't get my exercise, I got to put on the hat. And one of the things for folks that are listening to this, even though this is a podcast, completely visual, no actual visual imagery, I am in my blazer, my button-down shirt and tie right now. I'm actually in jeans because I'm in Zoom attire for 2021, right? And no shoes. I'm on my standing desk with I got a rocker board that helps me keep my legs comfortable because it's heart healthy and all that stuff. What really gets me into the mood is putting on the suit, putting on the uniform, so that's my armor, right? So I go and I'm ready to go. That's how I put myself into that mindset. So when I take my shower in the morning, put the suit on, I am ready to go. And sometimes I do that, if I'm going out in the evening to network, I take the shower, do the hygiene thing, and put on my suit of armor to go do battle. And in doing that, I get myself hyped up, I get my game face on, and I enjoy it. And the other side of it is the reason that I want to be high energy, or that I want to put on that suit of armor, is I understand that I can make a difference in the world if I do things in a way that creates change, that draws attention. I know that if I'm shy, I'm not going to change anything. There's nothing in it for me to be shy. There's everything in it for me to stand up on the hill and shout from the highest mountain that education works, that culture works, that being nice works.
I like that. So let's do a little bit more personal, right? So you were in jeans and you have that. What is your other uniforms and outfits that we don't get to see Cameron put on?
So my daily routine when the weather is good and I can get out and exercise and all that, this is the deal. So I wake up 4:30 in the morning, get on the exercise gear, usually some Under Armour clothes. Full disclosure, I own a few stocks in Under Armour because I like their brand a lot, and I think they're going to do well over the long term, although they've had challenges in spending more money than they're making, which has affected their stock, right? Which, it's just great business lesson for everybody, right? But I put on the Under Armour in the morning, and I attend a 5 a.m. club with Lynn Rowe and some other colleagues. And we talk about yesterday's win and 3 things that we need to get done today. That lasts till roughly about 6 a.m. I jump out the door. I'm on the bike. I'm running with my wife when the knee is good. But I like mountain biking or go down the path from Valhalla down the Bronx
I
River
thought you was a
Trail.
Peloton kind of guy for some reason.
Yeah, man. I like the scenery. I like being outside. I like actually feeling like I am getting distance and seeing things. That is my meditation. I usually have a book, an Audible book going. This summer I digested The Lean Startup by Eric Leese, Traction, a few other books. Great. Just that's my mental shift. Seth Godin books, all that kind of stuff. I'm listening to that. People like us ride bikes like this and listen to the stuff like this, right? So that's my mental thing. So that's a uniform that I put on, that exercise gear in the morning. And then that's the suit during the day. And then when I'm with the kids, man, it's comfortable, it's casual. It's, how can I just be ready to play and have fun? So the jeans and a polo shirt or a button-down shirt that's a little bit less snazzy. And I actually got the comment from, this would be funny for folks. I got a comment from my daughter's friends. My daughter's 14 years old, and her friend said, "Does your dad ever just wear a t-shirt?" Not really. Maybe when I'm going to sleep, but pajama style. That's it.
I asked that because my dad was a very strict person when it came to uniform, because it's about representation. It's who you are and everything, especially when you're part of underrepresented and minority communities. Do you take that idea of putting on your suit of armor or your different forms and what you do you pass that structure, if you will, onto your kids? Do you for example, my dad would, when we would go out, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a store in the back of a mall that was called Steve and Barry's.
Okay.
He would have $15 sneakers, which is why my dad would take us there. So you can get a pair of sneakers for basketball because we will play sports. You can get a pair of sneakers that for nice when you go out, and then you can get a nice pair of sneakers for play. You don't wear any other sneaker for any other thing. And so the only rule is you can't get a white sneaker because you don't give kids white sneakers. But is that something that you pass on to your kids in terms of structure or being well dressed and things like that? What's your thought on that?
So coming from a place of not being wealthy, I did not wear white sneakers, nor do my children wear white sneakers, because I feel like it's just too much. And the kids like the white sneakers and they say they're going to clean them, but you know what that actually is. So in terms of uniform, with my daughter, there's a little bit of the conservative. I want to make sure that she's dressing, to be fashionable and stylish, but she's not, showing off the assets in a way that is going to make anybody look at her in a way that makes her feel less. And I want to make sure she's safe. She's 14 years old. For the boys, it's making sure that they're comfortable and they look sharp, and I'm not dressing them up in suits or anything like that, but I definitely want them to be comfortable. I think for women and for men, it's about looking put together and comfortable. At the end of the day, I would much rather see my wife in comfortable shoes than quote unquote sexy shoes, because to me, sexy is comfortable. If it looks nice and it's comfortable, so much the better. But that's something that doesn't really read well with me when you see somebody in something that I wouldn't feel completely comfortable in, for sure, and they don't necessarily look completely themselves and comfortable in it. For example, you see a young woman and she's got something on where she's constantly having to adjust and pull. I know for myself, that's not a comfortable place to be. So it does not look sexy or comfortable to me.
My dad was someone that would do the quick tuck sometimes. And so I definitely the quick tuck, because he was the big on the t-shirt tucks and everything. But no, it's just something that, I kind of always realize that if someone is, very, don't want to say strict, but very organized in, their different types of uniform, that's something that really parlays and overflows into different parts of their life. So as we start winding down here and everything, I want to hit on something very big. You overcame a lot of different obstacles in your 24 years of growing Toth Event Staffing, right? And it started from not even the best of places. What was your secret for being able to overcome each obstacle? Because I'm sure there was probably a lot of people that would say, oh, you beat all odds, and so in your eyes you're like, I just did what I had to do. And so where is your balance of, you did what you had to do and beat all odds, and then it was, I just kind of had to keep my head down.
Yeah, I don't know that I have ever put it in the way of saying I beat all odds. I think I won the lottery by being born in the United States. I then won the lottery again of being born in Boston, Massachusetts versus, some poverty stricken, piece of the United States. I then won the lottery again because I was born a white male in a racist, patriarchal society. So I don't know that I can say I beat all the odds. I definitely had my challenges, being in a split home in terms of parents and not having some of the luxuries that go with being a wealthy person in the United States, whatever your race is. However, the challenges that I had to face were being, a guy that wasn't really figuring things out early on, talking about my high school story. I didn't have it all figured out. So I didn't graduate in the right way. I then, was young, dumb, and full of cum. And so I had a child, right, at 19. And I created a lot of the challenges that I had, really, there was a path that I could have taken that would have been far less challenging. And I decided, even though I didn't necessarily need to attend the School of Hard Knocks, I was going to attend the School of Hard Knocks anyway. And so, being a teen father at 19, right? I didn't have a lot of choices, or at least I didn't see a lot of choices. I was like, all right, let me, go into hospitality, start bartending. And I will say that, there's thousand things that I could have done. I could have given up. I tried to be a good father. I tried to work hard. I tried. And the key is here, tried, because was I a good father? I don't know. I don't know if you can be a good father at 19 in the situation that I was in, trying to work hard, at 19, and your mind is over here. Your mind, I preach this every day, in BizDev Live networking and on BizDev Live, the program on YouTube. You can only do one thing well at a time. So, here I am, a teenager. I've put myself into the School of Hard Knocks against all better judgment from anybody else that might have weighed in, because I was a young man just doing what I was doing. So I was able to fall and fall hard several times and just keep getting up. You go back to like the, fall 9 times, get up 10. So that's just what I did. I kept going. I'll credit my father with, giving me some book knowledge and a love for books and a love for reading and empathy. If I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be today. I certainly look at, my siblings who are dealing with challenges on their own. And I'm the oldest of 4 on my mother's side, single child with my father. There's certain things that I see that I just have that they didn't. There's challenges that they're facing that I'm not, because of the luck of my circumstances. But yeah, I think the big thing for people to take away, if we're going to give some value, is that I just worked hard. I became somewhat of a workaholic in the things that I was doing. I started bartending. I went from bartending to temp staffing. I followed that career for better for worse to food service management, and then became a food service director, and then left it and went to medical education meeting planning. I stayed involved with the nonprofit all along. So consistency is a big deal, right? Having something in your life that you're staying consistent with, I think is a big deal, just for the sake of advancing your mentality and learning something. So when we going back to a question you asked me before about how do I, create these engaging pieces, I was part of soundbusiness.org, which is a nonprofit that provides college and career education to high school students. And what better place to teach adults how to do something than teaching high school students? If you can manage high school students, you can manage anybody. A corporate crowd is easy compared to a auditorium full of high school students. If you can get on stage and get quiet that crowd, you can do just about anything, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so we always like to leave with one, final piece of advice. And so it's always usually about, if you could give one piece of advice, what would you give, right? And so I want to make it very specific, especially because you said you chose a school of hard knocks, right? What would be your one biggest lesson? It doesn't even have to be the biggest, but what would be the lesson that you would like to give right now about the school of hard knocks that made you who you are and could change someone else? Like, what is your biggest teaching moment or teaching lesson?
Seek mentorship. I mean, right? I didn't need to choose the school of hard knocks. I didn't have to go down some of the roads that I did. I could have sought out mentorship, looked for advice, listened, right? I think we run into that, right? We ask for advice, we look for advice, but then we don't necessarily listen. So listen, make sure that, although I think there's always a really good place for people to be in terms of seeking out experience so that you can fall, it's about choosing your battles, right? Do you want to choose falling down at White Castle, or do you want to choose falling down at the White House? Because as a 14, 15-year-old, both of those opportunities are open to you, right? You can apply for an internship, or, there's aids, and there's different things that you could do in local government or city government, or, right, just to sort of juxtapose those two things, right? You could go pick up an extra job or experience anywhere. Where are you going to go? I was just talking to a young woman a little while back, and hopefully she follows up with me, but she was talking about the fact that she had lined up a White Castle job. And I said, listen, that's not where I would recommend, especially as a high school student, that's not where I would recommend that you go, because that place is designed to get money out of you. Yes, they're going to give you a paycheck, but you wouldn't be there unless that was profiting them for you to be there. And the folks that you're surrounded with, those folks aren't necessarily growth minded. That's not why you go to work at White Castle. Meanwhile, why do you go work at the White House? Why do you go work at a doctor's office, right? You're looking for a step up, right? Why do I apply to a competitive college? Because people want to be in those seats, versus the community college where mom and dad is just pushing me there to go, or I'm looking for some credits towards my certification so I can, right? Go someplace where people want to be there, where people are growth minded, where people are trying to level up, because you can be in a lot of different places. One place is really going to help you. They're going to, speed jump you to the next level. The other place, it's the school of hard knocks, and you're going to have to fight tooth and nail to climb pebble by pebble to get a little bit higher. And that's rough. It makes your journey harder. So you get to choose, especially if you're a young person, you get to choose. But, whatever age you are, I think a lot of people will make the mistake, oh, I'm 30, I'm 40, I want to be a teacher, but I never got, my degree. It's never too late. You can do it. It's about figuring it out, putting it in your schedule, one foot in front of one foot in front of the other, get it done.
I agree with that, man. Thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Be sure to check out BizDev Live on YouTube. Thank you very much. You can just search me anywhere you want to find me. It's Cameron Toth, and you'll find me. Thanks so much for having me, Angelo.
Before you go, Ramblers, if you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make sure you're following me across all platforms at Assistance HQ. Catch up on exclusive content and keep track of everything going on at OffSource. See you in October.